Hello, greetings all. Gerald Clark here. I wanted to provide you with a Nibiru Status update. Today's date is 5/7/2015, and the first slide that we're going to look at is a picture of Dr. Harrington when he met with Zecharia Sitchin on August 30th, 1990. And I discussed this in the summary report. But he's the guy that had the data and worked directly with the IRS program, so I deferred a lot to him. Here's a picture of his orbital chart. This is the one that I used as a relational chart to determine the distance of Pluto, where he had it drawn, versus where Zecharia Sitchin had it drawn. So you can see the top orbital path is Sitchin's, and then there's an annotation that states during biblical times. And also, for some reason, this version that I have has Gil Broussard's input on it, which, I don't know, it looks like it mostly is designed to match the Jewish calendar, and it looks like it's going in the opposite direction that both Harrington and Sitchin believe it is, so I don't know. Other than that, it might be close to right. The next image is the first release of news about Nibiru and its location. They call it the 10th planet. That's the same thing that Sitchin talked about. And it showed up in the Detroit News January 16th, 1981. Between 1978 and 81, Harrington was busy and deployed some, four actually, and I don't know if they were all to his credit, but four instruments were designed and deployed into space to be the eyes and ears of NASA. One of them was Pioneer 10, which looked like it was on the perihelion side of the sun. And then you had Pioneer 11 that looks like it was stationed looking into Scorpio. And then you had Voyager 1 that was further south, splitting the orbit that was shown by Broussard. And then the other one was Voyager 2 that's shown near Sagittarius. And you can see the directions they're looking. One's looking inbound, one's looking outbound. This is a table that I did in the report. The last two columns show the correlation without log scaling of the planet size relative to the pixel size. And the very last column was the kicker for me, 99.503%. Correlation between log base 66 of the planet diameter in kilometers and log base 6 of the planetary diameter in pixels from VA 243. This is a chart that did not show up in the report. I sent it to James after the radio show because it was quite interesting working backwards and playing this what if game. So I assumed Nibiru arrived in 2015, then looked backwards to see how it correlated with events from what we know in the Sumerian past, the last ice age, and when Thoth says he built the pyramids 36,000 years ago. So I thought that was interesting correlation. Well, you can see in 1585 there was a large volcanic eruption. I think it was Santorini down near Italy that blew its top. And also this was the time when apparently there was nuclear assaults going on in Mesopotamia, where Ninurta nuked the spaceport at Sapar and caused an evil wind, according to their records, to envelop Mesopotamia, sparing only Babylon. So here's a orbital chart I saw. I don't know how accurate these times are, but what I was looking for were slingshot rates relative to a large planet at aphelion versus perihelion, and it looked like it ranged from all the way up to a scale of 20 depending on the planet size and density and its proximity to the sun. So I used a scalar of 4 and 7 in my report based on two different distances. So from that report I made my conclusions, said I was going to go pay a little more attention to these two sun theories that I've been hearing all over the internet. And I'd been discounting a lot of this data because I had made the assumption about a date for Nibiru's arrival and had written off everything else. So I was kind of closed-minded from that standpoint. So a little science is always helpful to corroborate what you're saying. My predictions stated with those calculations that it was possible, not that it was possible that Nibiru and its constellation were in perihelion based on my calculations from a table in the report. And this was using Harrington's sighting in 1991 from New Zealand at Blackbirch Observatory that was later built after he took his 8-inch scope there and was looking for the planet coming to perihelion at that point. So this next slide is a picture or series of pictures that were taken on sunrise on 5/7/15, starting at about 6:30 in the morning, 6:29. So the first diagram that I tried to get on a video that didn't seem to screen capture correctly, and I noticed people online had the same problem, is I opened Stellarium and wanted to eliminate any close planets that could be seen relative to the proximity to the sun where we saw them. So I wanted to see what the planets' orbits were, where the moon was, where Mercury was, where Venus was. So everybody kind of had an image in their mind. What should be next to the sun, what shouldn't, so we could kind of make sense of what we're seeing. And if you don't do that, all these observations, to me, they're meaningless unless you've gone through that process. So what I did is set the date and time, as you can see in the image here, to 5/7, and it looks like I had it set to 6:29, but because I was updating the orbits, it was counting forward by a couple of minutes on me, so it wasn't exactly at 6:29 in a couple of the pictures. I learned later that I could stop the orbits and stop everything where it was and keep it right on that time, but for this one, there was a little tiny bit of drift, but it makes no difference for what we were doing. On the left side of the first setup image from Stellarium, you can see the sun shining bright there. Follow that horizontal red line across to the right, and you can see the moon set up over there. And they have a scaling feature on it to make it look proper relative to the sun, the sides of the sun, and so on and so forth. So anyway, so that was the first setup diagram. The next setup diagram, I went ahead and looked to see if I could find Mercury. So I plugged it into the search parameters, showed the constellations so people could see where they were, put in a fake horizon, and you can still see the sun in this image, and then follow that orbital path down and to the left from the sun, cross the rabbit right near its ear, and you'll see a little red crosshair there, and that's actually where Mercury is at the time. So you can see it was not above and to the right of the sun, where we are going to look and focus a little bit here later. Okay? Alright, so the next one to eliminate was where is Mercury. So this next picture has the date time shown, and I think I set it back to 6:29 because it was drifting on me. You can see the sun here. I removed the horizon so that you can see the red crosshairs where oh, by the way, it wasn't a rabbit, it was a bull. So you can see the red crosshairs where Venus was. Okay, so and I drew the orbital path in so you could see it where it crosses around the solar ecliptic. All right. Okay, so once we had that done, kind of knew where people were, we wanted to look at a few pictures. Okay, so this was the first picture taken, and unfortunately the camera set for, it was 12 hours off. It was set for PM instead of AM, but this was a sunrise at about 6:29 AM, and I thought that was a lens flare just above about the 1 o'clock position on that first image, and kind of wrote it off, but we left it in there, and we thought we'd put some filtering on it to just see if it went away or just what we saw. But there was also a small blue sphere to the right of that, just above the left side of the tree line, if you follow it straight up, that kind of caught my attention, and I thought, well, what is that? I don't see any planets showing up relative to the sun from Stellarium, so I thought I'd better check that out. Okay, so there's two objects we're checking out here, and so I was quite surprised that there was anything. We added a night vision filter to it so that you could see both objects still show up. The dark band across the other object now looks very clearly like a spherical object with a dark core running through the middle of it, like a planet. So here's another image of it in inverse, and the outlines of the spherical object at 1 o'clock show up very, very well. And then the small object kind of shows up as just a blob, but at exactly the same location. Okay. And there's one taken with a thermal filter that, I don't know, it showed it off a little bit, but it still I couldn't definitively declare whether that was a sunspot or a solar flare or a camera lens flare, just what that was. Okay, so here, again, it's just a little bit later. And we focused in on the second object at the 1 o'clock position instead of the one near the sun, because once it came up and got brighter, you couldn't see it anymore. You can still see a vague outline of it, not as well. There's with a night vision filter on it. You can see it clearly, that orb sitting there. Here's another inverted filter of it with a little bit more of a close-up shot. And then, what else did we have? Another sunrise where everything kind of disappeared. You might still be able to see the orb straight up ahead, above, but it's harder with the cloud coming in. Actually, it started changing colors. I think that's why I put it in here. Yeah, so when the cloud came in, it changed from the bluish color to more of a reddish color. And then we ran the filter on that again, and again here, so you could see it. And then there in verse, it just showed up more as a blob. But you could see some pixelation issues going on around that spot, back even behind it. So I thought that was interesting. There's one more. Night vision filter, thermal image, and the black spot again. Okay, so this time we decided to go on the same day. Thought, well, you know, let's look at sunset and see if the things are still there. If they are, we're going to be a little freaked out. And at least it gives you another data point, like a blink point, so that you can see if they've changed orientations and such. So the first picture was taken about 6:44 p.m. From the same location, just looking, of course, west instead of east. And let's just progress through these a little bit. That one, we couldn't really tell much until we got and played some filtering games with it, so it wasn't as definitive as the morning, at least for a while. Okay, this one showed up the same circular dot at the 12 o'clock position, straight up above the outline of the thermal image. It also shows up here, directly above the trees, more of just an illuminated orb that's very faint. You have to look for it, but you can see it. There you can see it clearly. If you go back and forth between the previous one and this one, that you can see that. Okay, so then this one looks like it was a little farther along towards sunset, and on this one, if you look closely, directly at the 12 o'clock position now, there's a pretty large sphere that you're starting to see the outline of, and we added a little bit of filtering to make it a little clearer. There you can see it start to show up there, illuminated more on the right side than it is the left. And this one makes it even more definitive. You can see it there. This one, the dual tone, I thought really brought it into view. And there was another view of it just a little bit later that really started illuminating here. And I think I played some contrast games here with luminance and contrast to see if I could get it to show up a little better. Yeah, there, this picture actually, to me, this one is probably one of the best pictures. So it really shows up the outline of the planet there above it. And if you look close, I don't know if you can still see the other orb or not. Okay. Oh, here you can. Okay, in this next picture. So let's look at a few more of those. Okay. And this last picture is a dual tone of that one, and you can see if you look right at the 12 o'clock position, there's some disturbance going on there that is quite interesting. So I want to close this quick update with you to tell you that not only did I look at other people's pictures that were quite convincing, from Antarctic, from New Zealand, Mawson Station as well. But all the data fits, and it very much looks to me like there's a small constellation of planets in perihelion, very close to the sun, that are very hard to see depending on where you are. Now, I did see some pictures from Vancouver today that very, very clearly, with a very northern hemispherical view, looking south and west, could see the planets in their perihelion position better than someone closer to the equator. So I thought that was very interesting that it's coming around perihelion, and it'll become more and more visible as it comes around perihelion and heads back to the crossing point between Jupiter and Mars near the asteroid belt. So when in a very short period of time, everybody should be able to start seeing it with the naked eye as soon as it's away from the backside of the sun. So that'll be very telling, but it's coming, and the planet is right where we calculated it to be. Be safe, stay informed, and keep seeking your spiritual side. It's the only thing that's permanent. Hello, greetings all. Gerald Clark here. I wanted to provide you with a Nibiru Status update. Today's date is 5/7/2015. And the first slide that we're going to look at is a picture of Dr. Harrington when he met with Zechariah Sitchin on August 30th, 1990. And I discussed this in the summary report. But he's the guy that had the data and worked directly with the IRS program, so I deferred a lot to him. Here's a picture. This is a table that I did in the report. The last two columns show the correlation without log scaling of the planet size relative to the pixel size, and the very last column was the kicker for me, 99.503% correlation between log base 66 of the planet diameter in kilometers and log base 6 of the planetary diameter in pixels from VA 243. This is a chart that did not show up in the report. I sent it to James after the radio. Sure, of his orbital chart, this is the one that I used as a relational chart to determine the distance of Pluto where he had it drawn versus where Zechariah Sitchin had it drawn. So you can see the top orbital path is Sitchin's, and then there's an annotation that states during biblical times. And also, for some reason, this version that I have has Gil Broussard's input on it, which, I don't know, it looks like it mostly is designed to match the Jewish calendar, and it looks like it's going in the opposite direction that both Harrington and Sitchin believe it is. The space to be the eyes and ears of NASA. One of them was Pioneer 10, which looked like it was on the perihelion side of the sun. And then you had Pioneer 11 that looks like it was stationed looking into Scorpio. And then you had Voyager 1 that was further south, splitting the orbit that was shown by Broussard. And then the other one was Voyager 2 that's shown near Sagittarius. And you can see the directions they're looking. One's looking inbound, one's looking outbound. So, I don't know. Other than that, it might be close to right. The next image is the first release of news about Nibiru and its location. They called it the 10th planet. That's the same thing that Sitchin talked about. And it showed up in the Detroit News January 16th, 1981. Between 1978 and 81, Harrington was busy and deployed some four, actually, and I don't know if they were all to his credit, but four instruments were designed and deployed